A man is at the barber's. He notices a portrait on the mirror and asks the barber who the woman in the portrait is. The barber says it's his wife. The client says he must be joking because she is his wife. The barber tells his client that he might be confusing her with someone similar. The client gets angry and says he's sure that's his wife. The barber says he can't call her to confirm because she's on business travel. The client, confused, says that she isn't and reaches into his pocket to get his phone. He shows a photo that the wife sent him saying that she loves him on his WhatsApp. The barber, confused, says he doesn't believe in what's just happened. The client shouts, angry. He says that they needed to do something about that. The baffled barber inquires what he's supposed to do. The client tells the barber to pay attention because he's going to explain his plan. He calls someone on his phone. Later, the woman arrives. She finds a gift next to the door, and she praises her husband for being so romantic. She also finds a picture of her with the barber. Confused, she wonders what the picture is doing there. The husband approaches, wearing a suit, and asks if she managed to find the surprise he left for her. She says she has found him and thanks him for the great surprise. He asks why she looks so agitated. She says that she's just stressed because she forgot her stuff at her mother's house. The alleged husband says that's not a problem and offers her a lift. He says he also wanted to see his mother-in-law again. She refuses and says that she needs to walk a bit, then tells him that she will return in a minute. The apathetic husband says that he understands. She hugs him and says she's going. The husband, with a plain face, calls her as soon as she starts opening the door. He says that he loves her. She replies and says that she also loves him. Later, the woman arrives at the barber's house and finds a portrait of her and the old man there. Angry, she tells the barber that the house also belonged to her. The barber, pretending to be naive, asks why she's so angry. She grabs the portrait and asks him what it is doing there. The barber, still pretending to be unaware, says that it's a portrait of them. He asks if she remembers when they took that photo. He asks if she's all right. She says that she's okay and tells him that she needs some rest. He asks if she needs something else. She says she's fine and leaves. The barber then calls his client, Louis. He informs Louis that their plan is working as intended. He says that she has gone completely bonkers. He says that he thinks everything is going to work fine and hangs up. Meanwhile, the woman goes to open the fridge and suddenly finds 2 pictures of herself and her 2 husbands attached to it, one with the barber and one with Louis. She wonders if they're trying to prank her. She addresses the young barber as Carlos. He picks up the call and asks how she's doing. The enraged woman asks Carlos what he's trying to do to her. He says, pretending to be unaware, that he doesn't know what she's talking about and says that she's acting weird. He asks if she's sure she's okay. She says that she's fine. She says that she's confused and asks him what kind of trick he's trying to play on her. He says that he's not up to any tricks and inquires once more if she's feeling okay. The woman gets furious and hangs up. She wonders if that's something to do with Louis, but says that if it were him, he would be totally outraged. She says that she will just pretend that nothing happened and remove the photos from the fridge. Later, she calls her husband, Louis, and finds another portrait. She calls him to explain what's going on. Suddenly, a pregnant woman approaches and asks what she wants. She says that she lives with her husband in that house and asks the pregnant woman who she is. The pregnant woman says she's Louis's wife. The irritated woman tells the pregnant woman to watch her mouth and stop insulting her. She says she's the one who lives in that house and shouts to her husband to hurry up. Louis arrives, asking what's going on. The pregnant woman says that the woman invaded the house and started insulting her, saying that she claims to be his wife. Louis politely asks the angry woman to leave. She asks him what's going on. Louis says that she's out of her depth. He tells her to leave immediately because his pregnant wife can't face such a stressful situation. She calls him her husband. Louis says that he never saw her before and tells her to get out of his house, otherwise he's going to call the police. The woman, out of her mind, leaves. Louis thanks the pregnant woman for helping him with his plan. Later, the allegedly insane woman arrives at Carlos' house and finds the same pregnant woman. She asks what she's doing there. The pregnant woman ignores her and leaves the room. Carlos arrives with Louis. Louis sarcastically calls her his little wife and asks how she's doing. Carlos also asks if she's good and calls her his love. Carlos, still pretending to be naive, asks why she's so surprised. Louis, angry, says that he doesn't understand how people like her exist. Hypocrites. She refers to them as my loves and says that she wants to explain. Enraged, Carlos wonders how she has the courage to even call them loves. Louis says she doesn't believe that she's such a mocker. Louis yells that he doesn't want to see her anywhere near his house and tells her to leave his life forever. He calls her a snake and leaves. Carlos stays and looks at her with disapproval. Angry, he says that he always did his best for her. He says that everything was a total waste of his time. She approaches him and asks that he let her explain. He refuses and breaks down, crying. She leaves.